my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, September the 5th, and it is the Labor Day long weekend for both Canada and the US. So if you are one of those people who gets to have a long weekend, I hope you're really enjoying your long weekend. I totally acknowledge that not everybody gets to enjoy the long weekends. But if you're enjoying a long weekend, I hope you're having a great time and relishing, I'm hoping, decent weather where you are. Man, the weather, as usual, welcome to the weather report on my channel. This is really a channel about cross-stitching, but it always starts off with a weather report. So we're having a pretty good run of days here, sort of starting from yesterday and probably going to about Thursday. The forecast is pretty good days. Probably going to try and fit in a couple of last Slurpees of the summer. I know, it's a little sad how excited I get about Slurpee weather, but for me, Slurpee weather is a really great time. Anyway, yeah, weather, man, the weather, world events, not good. Anyway, I hope wherever you are, if the weather or events aren't going well, you know my line, stay safe, stay safe. And I've just heard the right. We've got great timing. If you hear random noises, the kids next door have just come out to play, and you know my line is I'm always supportive of parents who are getting their kids to play outside, so that's great. But if you hear the random screaming and stuff like that, don't worry, it's the kids next door. It's all fine. Anyway. If you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. We had really great comments this week. They were really fun to read. And I'm probably going to go through them randomly as we get to talking about certain topics. But I will, so the topic last week was talking about ink circles. So glad you enjoyed watching sort of that roundup of a random collection of ink circles charts. It's always fun to hear people's comments. Like one of the comments was, you know, they had forgotten about some of them, and they sort of were looking at going, I'm pretty sure I've got that one in my stash, and yeah, that was a really lovely one, and I should probably dig that one out and work on that. The Reflections of series is great. So one of you was going, I should start working on Reflections of Canada. Yes, you really should. Beat me to the finish line. Okay, that's easy for anybody to do, but never mind that. Someone commented that they had Reflections of Norway, which is one that I didn't show. And it's not that it doesn't appeal to me. It's just that I have not been to Norway yet. So I haven't, look at me keeping within my budget. Anyway, we'll get to that when we talk about Stitch from Stash. And Charlotte, I always love, she really likes the squirrels of Sumatra, other than the squirrels, which I think is hilarious. So one of these days, if we end up working on that with you, and I should figure out what we're going to do about how we're going to change out the squirrels. Really like all the designs in the squirrels of Sumatra. We'll clearly change the color because it won't be done in a brown color. And then I just have to take out the squirrels, and then it turns into a really fantastic pattern. Joanne Jones waded in. She's got, she also has the Holly Jolly, but her plan is to do it on a red fabric with a white thread, which I think would be awesome. That's a great one too. So again, the really great thing about those ink circles charts is the design is there for you to make it your own. So whether you change the fabric or whether you change the color, you know, let's talk about Squirrels of Sumatra again. So I'm clearly not going to do it in a brown. I'm 100% certain the fabric will be different. The fiber will be different, and so I might have to, you know, take out a couple of squirrels off the design. Don't report me to the pet or animal control people. I'm not doing anything to the squirrels. I'm just removing them from a design. And I liked the one who came in who really enjoyed those clefts. Yeah, I've owned them for years and years and years and years and years, and they're not huge. And I really should just sit down and do them, but they're currently not sitting in the 5-year plan. But well, anyway, the plan can always be revisited, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Okay, and with that, oh yes, and a new viewer, Judy. Thank you for coming to watch, and thank you for commenting. Always enjoy the comments. She too has done the never-ending nativity, and she says it took her about 10 years to finish the 5 panels on and off. Which again, that was like me. I certainly did not stitch on this solidly, and actually was really great at procrastinating, not to mention moaning, whining, and complaining about certain aspects of it. So yeah, I think it's fascinating that there's a couple of you out there who have also finished that and have done it and finished it, and hopefully my assumption is that it is proudly displayed in your homes every Christmas. Please tell me that that's the case, because you know I'm expecting mine to be on display every Christmas. Anyway, with that, let's get into some stitching. So the topic for this week is, let's do a little bit of a wrap up of August, because August finished on Tuesday. So I've had 4 days of stitching time to work on my new project. So let's talk about what I got accomplished last week. So my August focus piece, yes, as usual, there's things over here. My August focus piece was ink circles, because that was my ink circles August. I know, not alliterative, but anyway. I was working on the bee's knees. I am doing this on a 32 count Lilac Lugana using the called for Valdani silk. And my goal last week was to finish that third, got to do the whole thing. I've got to see where I'm at with my arrows. My goal was to get this entire motif finished. So I accomplished that and got a little bit of a start on here. So again, sort of as I was running through the thread, had a little bit left over, and so I started up here. Now, I will say that I did not get as much accomplished on this as I had hoped in the month of August. Now, that had to do with the fact that I finally did a really good push and got the never-ending nativity finished and had all of those debates with the beads and putting them on and taking them off and blah, blah, blah. So there was a decent amount of stitching time that I lost that particular week. So I have to say, I think I'm going to keep this out for a few more days, because I think I just want the same motif. I think I want to get the 4th one done. I think I would feel better putting it away going, all 4 of these were complete. And again, we've got a long weekend, so I've got today and a lot of stitching time tomorrow. Well, okay, theoretically I should be doing some yard work, so anyway, but should have some decent stitching time over the next couple of days. So I think if I did a really good push, I could get this one accomplished, and then I would feel better about putting it away, saying I've got a really good start. Now, don't kid yourself. There is a lot left to go on this, right? So what I've stitched is this motif here. So I have these big corner motifs and this entire border to do. So there's a lot left to go on this one. I don't remember the stitch count on this one, but I think it's a great start. I'm, you know, for an over-dyed silk floss that has browns and golds and things that aren't normally my colors, I'm very happy with how this is looking. I think putting it on this lavender Lilac Lugana was a really good choice. I'm really glad that I didn't do it on white. I think that would have been too harsh. As I mentioned, I also contemplated doing it on antique white, which I still thought was too white, and I also tried it on soft ivory, and I still think this, I'm very happy with how this is looking. I don't remember what the called for was on this, but I feel like it was like cream or ivory or something like that. Anyway, so there's that. So technically, so this is where I ended my August on this. Like I say, I think I'm going to make this stay a little bit into September just to get this fourth part done. Again, just because it will make me feel very symmetrical. You know, I have a thing about symmetry. It will make me feel very symmetrical, and I'll feel better when I put this away until next year, because it's not supposed to come out again. All right, so the other piece that I got a little bit of stitching time on this, again, not as much as I had hoped, was my temperature tree by the Stitchin' Mommy. So again, we'll talk about some of the comments. There are several of you who have also either have worked on or currently working on a temperature tree or one of the Stitchin' Mommy's other temperature designs. So let me get my notes again here. Judy, who also worked on the Nativity, she did the flower garden. She's in Minnesota. She said she had to adjust her gradations as well. Yeah, some of us live in those, you know, so the Stitchin' Mommy lives in California, and so I can understand why I'm grateful that she came up with 4 different versions of it, so I think that's great. I do recognize that some of us really had to adjust the temperatures. So Judy would love for you to comment again, which I think, did you have heat waves or whatever? So my real question is, did you really stick with the colors that she provided, or did you do any further adjustments? Because I used hers as a starting point, but I really did change. I probably kept about 1/3 of them and changed everything else. Anyway, so I'd love to hear what you did with yours. And then Jean is currently working on her temperature tree, which is great. She says she started working on the tree in December and she's doing a pretty good job of keeping up, which is great. That sounds awesome. But in hindsight, she wishes she had done a little bit of adjustment to her gradations that she was using as well, just because of the weather they've experienced this year. Now, so I will say that is the benefit of starting late. Okay, it's not that I'm really starting late. We all know that I don't enjoy a mystery. So by the time you hit, you know, the latter part of August, you've got a decent feel for how the year has gone. So again, there's still some mystery left because I've still got till the end of December to see what's going on. I am feeling very confident. I am 100% confident that the weather that we will experience between now and December 31st of 2021 will fit in with the color scheme that I've got worked out. I don't think that we're going to hit above 37. I'm really strongly hoping that we don't hit below -36 either. That would be great. Anyway, so at this moment, I hope I haven't jinxed anything. I feel like we're still going to fit everything within the color scheme that I've worked out with this. And yeah, so to me, that's one of the benefits of starting the tree really late. Now, I also don't have to finish this in 2021. It's not like the date is going to go anywhere. But I'm really enjoying this. I'm really enjoying this. Anyway, so what did I get accomplished this week on that one? Had a moment's going, where did I put it? Here it is. Didn't even bother taking it off the Q-snap because I'm planning on working it again today. So I finished my February branch, and with the leftover floss that I had, I started working on March because I was at that point where it's like I can just finish off this grouping of 6 strands and off we go. This February is an interesting month. Actually, I've got to scoot forward here again. So, I know, and some of this may not really appeal to any of you, so just scoot ahead a few minutes. till you see the tree go away. You can skip this if you don't care so much about the weather. But I just laughed again because here we are starting the month of February, and it was like +10. Here we go again, +10, and this color took us down to about -9. 2 days. Look, talk about whiplash in the weather. And then again, so it's on the screen, it's not looking very different, but this is a new color here. These 3 days in a row, bitterly cold. So the highs for those 3 days were sort of in the -24 degrees Celsius to -26 degrees Celsius range is where those ones were. So cold, 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 cold. Anyway, but I haven't finished all of the leaves here. So I've decided that I'm going to start doing a little bit of a report as to how many colors go on each of these branches and what the high and low was. And I forgot to write them down for January. I wrote them down back on the piece of paper with all the data. So I know that there were 8 colors that I've used here for my January branch. My quick count of February, the shortest month of the year, I think is going to have 11 different colors of leaves. It's going to be, anyway, it's going to be fascinating. So I'm really enjoying working on this. So again, my plans really for today and tomorrow is I want to finish that 4th one. And I want to finish my February leaves. So I think I'm over halfway done through the leaves. So it shouldn't take very long to finish those up. Those leaves are really fast to go. So my plan is to finish up the leaves on February and get my November branch started. Actually, my November. It's not November. My March branch finished sort of over today and tomorrow. Because then that will give me later this week to sort of periodically fuss away at the colors for March. So the other thing, so the color that I'm doing for this branch is a solid. And so the other thing that I contemplated this week is, and I don't mind that these branches are solid all the way across, but there's a lot of trunk left to go when I get to the end. So again, I'm sort of outlining this trunk and just trying to get my branches done. And so while I was out this weekend, here's a little bit of my Stashquisitions for this week. I picked up a couple of browns that are somewhat variegated, but not overly variegated. So one of the ones that I'm contemplating is Gentle Art Brown Bear, just to fill in sort of like that center part of the trunk as opposed to having it be solid. And the other one I picked up is Weeks Dye Works Chestnut. I think this is well, we'll have to see. Now, I won't be worrying about the filling in part until we sort of until all of the branches are done, and then I'll just worry about filling in the tree. But these are the 2 browns that I picked up. And again, I picked them up from the shop this week because I don't have a vast array of browns in my collection because I don't tend to use a lot of browns. And again, it had to very specifically tie into the brown that I was using for these branches. So again, not uberly variegated, somewhat variegated, so it's a little bit of a debate as to whether or not what happens with these. But these were acquisitions this week, and they are going to live in the bag. Live in the bag with, and just to remind everybody, here is my color palette for my tree. So these are going to go live in with the brown, which is actually over here, but anyway, for the tree. And I laughed again. I had someone this week who has known me for many, many years kind of laughed and said, Judy, are you feeling okay? I was like, why? What's going on? She's like, that looks like yellow and orange in what you're working on. Which, again, so those are very, I don't tend to use a lot of yellow and orange in what I'm doing. That's not really my color palette. And in this context, I'm totally fine with this because it makes sense in this context. Now, the yellows that I'm using these are not the yellows from the Stitchin' Mommy's, her color grid that came with the chart. These are my choices of the colors. And these oranges are also, which again, I'll hold them up so you can see that they're actually different. These are not the oranges that she used in her grid. These are my choices for those colors. But again, I'm very happy with the color choices that I've made for what this is going to look like. And again, as we get into those warmer months, I can't wait to see. I'm taking an inordinate amount of pleasure, and probably if I could drop everything and just stitch this, I would. But it's a really good balance for me because anyway, we'll talk about that in just a second. My reward for doing certain things is that I come back and I get to work on my tree. So again, so today and tomorrow I will work on that 4th motif, get that finished, and the reward will be I'll get to spend some time on my tree. All right. So again, so those go into the Stashquisition pile. Well, Stashquisition report. All right, so we are into a new month, which means I have technically a new focus piece. Distracted over the, today and tomorrow for the long weekend on a couple of other things. But I'm still planning, over the course of those 2 days, I'm still planning on doing some work on my new piece. So welcome to September. So there are lots of people out there who are, for many stitchers out there in the community, you will hear people referring to September as Sampler September or September Soiree. Again, so this is not me. I'm clearly not, well, sort of, but not really participating in those. So my understanding of the difference between Sampler September and September Soiree is that September Soiree is what you call it when you're working on a true reproduction sampler. So that would be like Anne Morrison. If you are working on a sampler, which is sort of like a current original by one of the designers, that fits into Sampler September. Man, I can't even say these. Sampler September are originals. September Soiree is for true reproductions. If you get them mixed up, really, nobody should fuss it, whatever. Again, work on what you want. So what I'm saying September is I'm doing a Stoney Creek September. So my new project is from Stoney Creek, from the Stoney Creek collection. And I will say, when I was, because I always look ahead when I'm doing my stuff, back in August I was looking on the Stoney Creek website, because this is an old chart. I've had this for I've had this chart for decades. I've had this chart. I've had it. I still really like it. I still want to do it. And so again, this is the year that I decided it was finally time to start it. I will warn you right now, it's not going to get finished this year because I'm not that fast. Anyway, so in August, when I was looking on the Stoney Creek website, I was like, okay, so the chart's still there. So if anybody really liked it, they could get it. We got to September. I started working on it. I was getting ready for today's video and went, let's just go make sure everything's okay. It looks like it's gone out of print. So now, it's not that you can't get it. I did see that it was on eBay. The ones that I saw on eBay were going for like 22 bucks Canadian, which I think is more than they're worth. So check your de-stash sites, stash unloading, that kind of stuff. or just let people know that you're looking for it, because you just never know where one's going to pop up. And so with that, let me show you. So this is the Stoney Creek collection leaflet number 72, which has a copyright date of 1994, and I really feel like I would have bought it right around that time. So I've owned it for a really long time. So this is another one of my 20-year-old charts. And again, so this is why if anybody's giving you a hard time, you can just point them right over here to the channel. I've had these charts for 20 years. Lady Scarlet's Journey, April's Blue Diamond. Here comes the Stoney Creek one. I've had them for 20 years and I finally started them. This is called Tapestry of Life. Now, it's going to be really hard for you to read those words. So this is why I say it's sort of samplery, but it's not exactly a sampler, because there's a lot of words, but no alphabets and numbers and things like that on there. But, you know, borders and things like that. Anyway, so, and again, because you can't read it, I will tell you what it says on here. So it's called Tapestry. The chart is called Tapestry of Life. At the title of the poem at the top says Tapestry of My Life. It says, I wonder what the other side will be when I have finished weaving all my thread. I do not know the pattern nor the end of this great piece of work which is for me. I only know that I must weave with care day by day the colors that are given me, and make of them a fabric firm and true, which will be of service for my fellow man. Sometimes those colors are so dark and gray, I doubt if there will be one line or trace of beauty there. But all at once there comes a thread of gold or rose so deep that there will always be that one bright spot to cherish or to keep, and maybe against its ground of darker hue it will be beautiful. The warp is held in place by the master's hand. The master's mind made the design for me. If I but weave the shuttle to and fro and blend the colors just the best I know, perhaps when it is finished he will say, "'Tis good," and lay it on the footstool of his feet. So that's what the poem says. Again, so this is what it looks like when it gets finished, not this year. So I brought out all of the colors. So here's, again, so this is my project on its floss. Everything's in a floss away bag with one of these 2-inch binder rings that I keep them on. So there is the sort of the color palette. This does call for a Caron water lilies called Hyacinth. Now, there's more skeins in here than I should need, and that's because, so clearly I shopped for the specialty items for this on a couple of occasions, so I have more than one skein, and they're different colors. You know, are they, like, they're not so different that you go, wow, those don't even look like they're the same color palette at all. But they are different enough that you go, these are, there we go. So here's my 2 skeins of Caron, Hyacinth, which is number 110. So again, they're both labeled Hyacinth. They are similar, but you can also see that they're also quite different. So I don't need to make this decision until closer to the end, and I'll explain why that is for a bit. So I've pulled them out of the stash. They're sitting in the floss away bag so that I'm hoarding them for this particular project, and I can make a decision when we get to that point where I start using it. Sorry, I just need to put it back into the floss away bag. the other thing, because of course I'm a glutton for punishment, so this particular chart uses 3 different colors of Krynic. Now, the upside to, I was going to say I was smart about this and I'm not. So I was going to say that these are number 4 braids, but they're not. They're blending filament. Again, we all know how much I love working with the blending filament. Anyway, it's totally appropriate for the project, and we all know I suck it up. I moan, whine, and complain, but I suck it up and I do it anyway because I like the ending effect. So this gold is the number 002 High Luster, and it's used in this chart very sparingly. Let me just find it again. It's going to be really incredibly hard for you to see, but it's actually used in this border. There's actually just a small little line of it that's used in there, and it's in that area where it talks about there comes a thread of gold or rose so deep, and so it's buried in that border on the 2 sides. So there's going to be this again, it's really the cover. I know 100% that the cover photo does not do it justice. So I'm going to have this bright gold high luster thread running through just that little chunk of border where that section of the poem is. So it will be lovely. It will be lovely in that context. And I'm also feeling okay about it because according to my quick sort of run through the chart, it's really only used in that one spot. So I will be able to suck it up and do it in that one spot, and it will be fine. So that's the color palette. So 1 Karen Water Lilies, 3 Krynic blending filaments. I know, and with all of that, oh yeah, so the other thing I should tell you, so they stitched the model on a 28 count cream Quaker cloth, so I'm not doing it on that. The stitch count is 199 by 315, so as I said, not small. I'm doing it on a 32 count linen, which will make my design size 12.5 by 19 3/4. So again, so this is why it's not going to get finished this year, because we all know that I'm not the fastest stitcher. And so but again, the whole premise and my goals for 2021 was to actually start some of these projects that I really want to get done. Some of them get finished, some of them are just starts, and I'm totally fine with that. So where did we get to? Here it comes. Here we go. Now, where's my other board? So yeah, as you can tell, not small, because I don't like the small ones. So there is my tiny little start on the words. Now, this doesn't look like a lot, which I'm actually feeling okay about, because this is, 4 days worth of stitching, and it hasn't been, the most uber stitching of days. So not bad. I am choosing to start this design in the center, which means I am starting right here. So the lines that I have finished are the 2 lines that say to cherish or to keep, and maybe against its ground of darker hue it will be beautiful. I will say I'm fixing the punctuation in the poem. So the against its ground of darker, it had an IT''S, which is, it's wrong. It should be no apostrophe, so I'm taking that out. So I'm fixing the punctuation to make it correct. The other thing, the font, I don't know how easy it will be for you to see this, but the font for this particular chart does make it a little bit hard to read. So the other thing that I'm doing is I'm fixing the lettering here a little bit so that it's easier for me to read. So I'm straightening some of it out and all that kind of stuff. So I am doing this on, so this was an unlabeled linen. So I want to say that it's so it is a very pale blue. And I think when I was kitting this project up in 2020 and I was looking at all of my stash, because again, when it comes to working on projects, my criteria for the fabric is a combination of count plus color, but between those two items, color always takes precedence. So this, so I have compared it against, I think I have other 32 count ice blue linen in my stash, and it was even paler than that. Now again, is it a different color? It's a Zweigart brand. I would say that this is fabric that I've had for a really long time. This could be fabric that I bought 20 years ago when I bought the chart. 26 years ago when I bought the chart. Anyway, that's possible too. Anyway, this was the piece where I was debating last week. I was debating whether I needed to go back and do it on an antique white so that this color palette, whoops, that's not the right one. So that this color palette would show up. But again, I brought it out, I laid it out, I showed it to a couple of friends, and they were like, no, it's gonna look lovely because it is just such a pale blue. And so I think I still think this is the right color choice, so I stuck with my original fabric choice. I was debating the DMC that is used for these words is DMC 317, which is a gray. And again, I debated whether or not, given that I was doing it on this blue fabric, whether I should change it to a blue. So I actually hauled out a bunch of blue DMCs and I put them down and I looked at them and I went, you know what? I really do think that this 317 is the right color. Now again, the camera's going to skew it, so you're not going to, I don't know, it's not bad how it's showing up on the camera based on what I'm seeing, but in real life, when I started, I was like, no, this is, 317 is actually quite a blue-gray, and I think that's why it works so well. Now, so let's talk, the other thing about this one is, well, actually, let me bring this back. So you might think that this would go fast because these words are simply backstitching with one strand of DMC. So you would think that that would go fast. It doesn't go fast. Well, it doesn't go fast for me because my choice is that I am starting and stopping between every one of these words. So there's like 3 spaces between all of the words. And for me, that's just, again, on a linen, it's just too far for me to drag my thread. So I'm making the choice. It makes it slower for me. The other thing that makes it slower for me is that I am having to fix the letters. So sometimes when I come across a letter where I go, oh, wait a minute, I think I'm changing this one, I need to go back. I'm looking back and going, how did you do it the last time? So for example, I'm changing the T's. So, you know, I'm getting the hang of them and remembering what I'm doing. But there was one letter that I was working on last night where I'm like, I started it and went, no, hang on a minute. Go find, you've already done one of these and you've already made some decisions as to how you're fixing this. So I had to, you know, again, not that I had a lot to go back and figure out where it was, but find it again and make sure that I'm being consistent about how I am revising the font for these letters. And again, it's just because I find the font that they used makes it challenging to read, which means it's not fun for me. If I stitch and I go, I can barely read it, that doesn't work for me. So, and the other interesting thing, I was talking to someone about this week, their comment was, you know, I was kind of going like, look, I seem to have an issue about these really large projects, and she was immediately on there going like, this is going to be stunning and beautiful and lovely, and it needs to be big. This is important. This is, anyway, so it was really nice encouragement. And yeah, so it's not going to get done fast. So my plan, So again, because I've started in the center, because this is one of my idiosyncrasies, and I know that this is me. Most people, if nothing else, they probably would have started up here, either in the top right or left, or top center. They would have started at the top and worked their way down. So why am I choosing to do it in the center? Because I have this weird thing that I need to have my piece centered on the piece of fabric that I'm working on. It makes no sense. It's totally idiosyncratic to me. I don't know why I have this hang up, but I do. Anyway, so I'm choosing to start it in here. So my whole plan is to get these words done. Let's just get this section of words done. And then I'm going to work on this floral border here. Now, let's not forget, this is going to drive me nuts. And in a couple of weeks, we'll talk. Well, hopefully in a couple of weeks, I will have done a decent job of this, and we'll be somewhere close to starting this, and we'll talk about why this is so painful. But the Stoney Creek, I love the shading. I love the effect of how it looks. It can be very, very, actually, let's back this up. Let's pretend. Let's make this the screenshot for this week. Oh, actually, that's better. Let's try that again. Less glare. It will be annoying, but this is, this will be annoying. It will be annoying again when I do it here, and there's more flowers here in the border down here. And these flowers will be the most annoying part. Because the shading will be lovely, but it's going to be one of those things where it's like 3 stitches of this color, followed by 3 stitches of a different shade of that color, followed by 3 stitches of a 3rd shade of that color, followed by 3 stitches of the 4th shade of that color. Anyway, and that's the part that gets annoying. And that's why a lot of people really dislike Stoney Creek patterns, and they won't even contemplate working on them, because that is how Stoney Creek achieves the shading on their designs. And yeah, it can be incredibly annoying to do, and we'll talk about that as we go through this month. But for me, I look at them and I go, I'm going to do it anyway, and yeah, I'm going to get annoyed, and I'm going to be frustrated with Stoney Creek for doing this, but at the end of the day, it looks lovely. It looks lovely. So that's why, do all of these words. I'm not going to go up because this border is nicer than this border to work on. I've looked at the design. This will be easier to work on than this. So do these words, do this annoying border, and my reward for doing that border will be to come up and do this border, and then do all these words, and then do this top border. Then I will come down and do these words. So this is my stitching plan. Clearly not all of this is going to happen in 2021. Do these words, and then I would scroll back up, and then I would start working this border all the way from the top straight down to the bottom and finish this. Because I think, to me, the funnest part of this pattern is going to be this band right here. And so that's why I'm leaving that till the very, very end, is that I'm trying to leave myself this big reward saying, you've done all of this. Here's your really, really fun stitching, and finish. Now, not happening in 2021, because I'm not a very fast stitcher, and I'm certainly not very fast when I'm having to start and stop every single word, because tying in those ends with one strand and blah, 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 anyway, whatever. It's worth it in the end, but it's not fast. Anyway, and it's not like there's 10 words on here. This is a very wordy poem. But again, I think this is going to be stunning at the end, and I'm going to be thrilled with it. I've owned this chart for, let's call it 25 years. It's time this sucker got started, and so I'm really happy with my choice for September, and it is. It's going to be started, and as always, with all of the projects that I started at the beginning of these months, it will be fascinating for me to see where I end up at the end of the month, which also says to me, my whip parade at the end of this year, I'm really going to enjoy doing that one, because that's going to be fun, because I'll have a lot of whips. Not as many as some, let's not kid ourselves, but you know, this is certainly going to be the most whips I've had on the go in, I'm going to say, probably my lifetime. Anyway, so that is my new start. 4 days got me those 2 lines, so check back next week. Let's see how I'm doing, because I really do want to finish. I really want to finish these and get started on this border, because it will be interesting to me to see how long it takes me to do that, because I know that these flowers get repeated again up here at the top. Anyway, all right, so that's my stitching for this week. Okay, let's talk about Stashquisitions. So I have done a little bit of shopping. So as I said, I picked up these 2 browns. So I've actually, over the course of this last week, I've actually picked up 2 things. I picked up one thing from one shop in August, and I picked up something else from another shop, which was in September. The September acquisitions we're not going to show for a couple of weeks, because there's one more order that I'm waiting for it to come in, and then we'll have a couple of weeks of Stashquisitions, and I can explain things and do all that kind of stuff. So the 2 browns that I got for the temperature tree. I picked up these 2 skeins of Dinky dyes. This is for a specific project. These are 163 blue Groper from Dinky dyes. So those are lovely. Again, I know what those are for. Actually, I'm going to keep these out. So I also happened to pick up a skein of Bahama Breeze. I can't read the labels. So this is Belle Soie. So this is a silk. You can probably guess why I picked this up while I was picking these other 2 up from the store. Shades of things to come, perhaps. Anyway, so those are lovely. I picked that up. I also picked up the summer 2021 issue of Stoney Creek magazine. So the nice thing about this is that this doesn't count towards my Stitch from Stash, because this is a subscription that I have. In case anybody's wondering, it sounds weird that it's a subscription I get from the store. It's because Stoney Creek no longer allows people to actually have like an annual subscription and get the magazines directly from Stoney Creek. So there is a local shop to me where I have actually gotten my magazine from them for many years. And one of the reasons why I get it from them is because they're fantastic. 2, they have always said to me, so they have my name on the list, that they bring one in for me every issue, but they also give me the flexibility that when I go in, that I can go in, I can look at it, and I can choose at that point in time whether I'm going to buy it or not. They bring it in for me anyway. I don't have to walk out with it. I will say that I don't think I've ever had an issue that's come in that I haven't walked out with, so I don't think that they're that worried about me. But I really do appreciate that they do allow me that flexibility, that they bring one in for me and say, if you don't want it, that's okay. I don't have to purchase it. So I will put a link to the Stoney Creek website, because the other benefit, if you're one of those people who does not have a local needlework shop physical that you can go into, the other benefit about the Stoney Creek website is that they actually give you a really good look into the magazine of all of the designs that are in that, of any given issue. They will show you what's in that particular magazine. And I really appreciate that. So certainly for 2021, I'm absolutely, definitively, unequivocally getting all of the issues, because they're doing this design, which they call Ecclesiastes 3:1. They make it out like it's only one verse. It's not one verse. This is not one verse. Anyway, from Ecclesiastes. but never mind that. They can call it whatever they want. So this is the one that says to everything there is a season. And again, just given sort of what's been happening over the last couple of years, for me from a family perspective, this sort of hits home with me. Now, it's not in the near term stitching plans, but to me, the interesting thing is when I'm still saying when I come down to stitch this, even if it's 5 years from now, I will look at this and I will always think of 2020 and 2021 and what was happening. Now, I have already bought the fabric for it. I have bought the, it calls for one classic Colorworks, Desert Mesquite, and it calls for Threadworks, Arboretum, and it calls for 1 Week Dyeworks, Blackboard. So I have those. The thing that I had been putting off is, and I don't know if it's because it showed up more clearly on this one, or I just haven't been paying that much attention to the actual, I was going to say the ingredient list. It's not an ingredient list, but anyway, the color list or the thread list, which has all the other things. It does call for some faux pearls. And again, where I pick up my magazine subscription from, they do tend to do more beadwork than the other stores that I shop at. And so I said to them, I need these beads, and they had them. So I picked those up. There should be enough in this bag to do everything I need in this chart plus some. So that's great. So those are my Stashquisitions that I'm showing you for this week. Again, like I say, I did pick up another bag from the other LNS that I go to. I need one more shipment to come in, and then I can start working my way through what's in those bags and why they are what they are. It will make sense when it comes in, what we're going to talk about. So with that, that brings me to my, gotta find my piece of paper. I've got my Stitch from Stash report for August. All right. So my opening balance for August was negative $25.03, because we all know I had that little bit of shopping thing in July where I went, this isn't working out so well for me. But anyway, my budget, which is the maximum I'm allowed in the Stitch from Stash group that I'm a part of, flunked out the first time, trying it again. Worried about this one too. Anyway, we'll talk about that in the next couple of weeks. So this month I have spent $79.18. So there's two components to that. So one of the components is so the silks that I just showed you, those two skeins of brown, those beads, and there's that order that I got in from the US that I have not shown you because I need to wait for this other shipment to come so I can combine everything and show you what the point of that is. Now again, so some of that was not exactly cheap. I will explain why I got it when I did, because it was, I don't regret it for a second. It was absolutely the right call, period, bar none. Bar none, thrilled with the choice. It's the right choice for me. But $79.18. Now, upside is, brace yourselves, in August I had some finishes. I don't always have those. I had some finishes, so I actually got some credits in the credit column, which is great. So I finished my Mill Hill kit in August. I think I finished it on August the 1st. Does that make sense? Anyway, that I think very, very early in August I finished it. I think the first sounds right, because I think it was only one day after I finished July I got that finished. And so my credit for that is $11. I did reach out to Stephanie, who runs the Stitch from Stash group, because that center panel for the nativity is far outside of the grid, and everything's like, they have grids, they have a specific number about how you work some of those large full coverage pieces like Cades and all that kind of stuff. but that center panel was outside of, it's not full coverage and it's outside of the grid, so I had to reach out to Stephanie to get my numbers for that one. So the nice thing, so it was a good number. So my credit for finishing the center panel is $102.50. So that was good. So brace yourselves. I am ending the month of August in the plus column with $34.29, which you would think with all of that I would have more, but again, that $79 purchase, those two purchases, that hurt. So thank heavens I finished that nativity, which is why I'm getting worried again, because I have my Needlework Expo orders in. So I didn't go overboard. I didn't, a lot of the things that I looked at and I appreciated and I liked and all that kind of stuff, I did not order. I did order a few. They're winging their way. But there are a couple of other charts that I had ordered that once they come in and I show them, I'll explain to you why I got very concerned about it and went, you have to order these, period. And once I get them, I will show them to you and I'll explain with that. The other complication that's going to hit in September is, so Traditional Stitches did get a Picture This Plus shipment in. Now, this is a shipment that they ordered in 2020. Just highlighting that again for anybody who thinks that the supply chain's going well. They just got in a shipment from that they had ordered in 2020. I think they still have, I think they've got one more order yet to be received that they ordered in 2020. So they ordered, I'm pretty sure that's, I'm thinking about that. I think that's how it's working with, again, right? Like, so, and I know people get frustrated and they don't think this should take time. And again, right? The Picture This Plus has pretty much said it's an 8-month lead time to get fabrics out of them. So, you know, and I know that Janice at Traditional Stitches does try to order in advance, right? So when she's ordering, she's trying to cover people who've ordered things as well as buy for the shop. But when it's taking 8 months to arrive, a lot of the product, by the time those shipments arrive, they're spoken for. For those special charts that we're going to talk about once I get them and I get to show them to you, it calls for Picture This Plus fabric. And they actually had a leftover piece in the color that I need for those charts. I'm also going to tell you it's not a color that I would normally stitch on. So there's no way that I absolutely definitively have nothing in my stash which would work for these projects. They had a piece left over. I got it. It's in the count that I want. It's in the count that you need for this particular piece. It's in the color from Picture This Plus. It's even a Lugana, which is my preferred. If you give me a choice between linen and Lugana, I will take the Lugana every time. They had it in 32 count Lugana in the shop, in the color I needed, in the cut size I needed. Apparently they had one left over after they were done with, you know, handing it out to all the people that were in their order book for all this kind of stuff. There was one piece of fabric. It was perfect. It was perfect. I was very, very excited. It was like, put that in my bag. Quick, please, please. So that was really exciting. So that will be showing up again once I get those other things. I can't wait to show them. Some of you will laugh at me, but I'm really thrilled. I'm thrilled that I ordered them. I'm thrilled that my shipment from the US store came up with the things that were in that. I'm thrilled that Traditional Stitches had the piece of fabric that I need. It's awesome. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks that will come in and I will get to pick that bag up and then I'll have some things to show you. All right, and with that, yeah, that is my August wrap up. Although technically my August piece is carrying over into September for a little bit just a little bit, and my September start. So with that, I hope everybody has had a really great week. I hope you've had some time to stitch. I hope everybody is staying safe. I hope everybody's staying healthy. Where I live, we are back into, the COVID case numbers are rising, which is bad. Our ICUs are over 95% full, generally, of COVID patients. So even though I'm double vaccinated, I am fully cognizant that double vaccination does not give you 100% protection. So I'm still being very careful. I was commenting to somebody about the very exciting life that I lead, which is I go to work, I go to the grocery store, and I usually see my parents. Now, again, I'm being very careful about that because my mother does have interstitial lung disease, so she's the one that I am being careful for these days, because if I accidentally gave it to her, it would be bad. Anyway, so we're back to mask mandates, and my answer is, this is just the way it has to be. And this is not a political issue. This is a health and safety issue. So, I don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed that I was living in my little bubble where I could be mask free for a while, but we're back to masks. And I need to do that for the safety of my community, as well as my immediate family members. So anyway, with that, I hope everybody is going to have a great week. If you are having a long weekend, I hope you are having good weather so that you can get out and enjoy it and have some fun, because winter is coming. Anyway. And with that, I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope you're finding time to stitch. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, topics you would like me to address, love getting the comments from you guys. Like I said, the comments last week on the ink circles were really fun for me to read. And so always enjoy having that feedback and getting to have a little bit of a conversation with you. And so I hope you're going to have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, guys.